The Wuben X3 light dock is the latest new product from Wuben. It's the third and smallest X series side-by-side light from Wuben. This one brings quite a few different features that we haven't seen on the others. First is this rotating head, as you can see here. Second, it's got an LCD screen. It's got both red and white LEDs. And it also has wireless charging. There's lots to go into detail on this one to explain everything. Wuben did send this to me to promote their X3 launch on Kickstarter, which is live now. Links will be in the description below to where you can learn more. Supporting the Kickstarter will help support this channel too. All that said, these are my unbiased views and opinions on the light and not influenced by Wuben's decision to send me the X3 in advance of the campaign. As always, I've got social media links in the description below and I'd appreciate you check those out. So I didn't really get any packaging for the light. Since this is a prototype, but what I can tell you is a few of the accessories that it'll come with. You've got a manual, obviously you've got the light itself, then you've got this charging case, which is pretty unique and we'll go into, but the light goes down and into it as well, acts as a lantern. And then lastly, you've got this lanyard holder, which if you push in both sides, it comes out, and this is your USB C-to-C charging cable. So a nice little set of accessories that goes along with the light. Lots of things to talk about here on the X3. First, let's start with the light itself. The head module here is made from aluminum and in my example is black. The body in my example is a translucent plastic that also glows in the dark, so that's pretty cool. Wuben says they'll be offering 4 different colors. You'll have a black, white, a camouflage green, and a gradient ramp blue, similar to what they've done on other X series lights. I'm guessing this is the white version. It's unclear that if the colored options will be body and head combination together. I think they will, or not. The campaign, I'm sure, will explain that a little bit better when it's available. The head here features 2 LEDs side by side. You've got a white LED on the left, as you see here, and then a red LED on the right, and both sit behind clear TIR optics that are held in place with this bezel and small torque screws. The head here does rotate, as you can see here. There really isn't a detense on either side, so it flows pretty easily, although there's like a little bit of preload or something. There is detense on both the front and the end, but nothing in the middle, and it's happy to run on the side like this with no issues if you want it to. On the front, you've got this wireless charging pad, as you can see here, and I'll talk more about this, but this is using the Qi charging standard QI, and this will charge on any charging pad of around 5 volts that is QI compatible. I didn't get it to charge on some of my Anchor charging pads that were quick charge, but I could power share from my Samsung phone. I could charge on other wireless charging pads that will see more charge in the case. At the bottom, you've got 2 magnets that are pretty strong. We can see attach it to a knife blade and shake it pretty vigorously, and it holds on pretty well. On the back, you do have a pocket clip here that is quite stiff and quite strong. A friend and I put this on some overalls, and it took both of us to pull this thing off enough. And one interesting thing to note is I've got the X2 owl here, which I quite like and also reviewed, and the clip is running the other direction here. So this is probably a little bit more suitable for EDC usage with the clip shape, and this one, it works better for the ability for the head to rotate here and work as a front angled light. Not as great as EDC in my opinion, but we'll talk about that later. Quickly going over the recharging case here, this is made from a soft touch plastic. As you can see, it is pretty susceptible to fingerprints, dents and dings, scratches, things like that. I haven't abused this, and it kind of looks a little dirty, grody already. On the back, you've got a lanyard attachment point here that looks pretty solid. Opening up here, you've got this diffuser, and this allows you to put the light inside to charge, and then when you snap it down, you can use it as kind of a makeshift lantern. And this also has a power bank function. There's a 2000 milliamp hour battery inside, so it not only charges the light, but also can charge your phone or other device. There's your USB-C charging port, and there's your port to turn the recharging feature on. You do have LED indicators on both sides. This is the case itself, and this is the wireless charging of the X3 when inside. And it is held in with magnets, so it kind of snaps in there and then pretty tightly fits, and then you just pull it out. It's pretty secure and isn't going to go anywhere on its own. So let's talk about the user interface of the light. There is a little LCD screen here that when I turn it on, you can kind of see what it says there. There we kind of go. On the LCD screen, you've got the lumen output level, you've got the level, and then you've got the battery indicator in form of a graphic, not a percent, and really easy to use. You just press and cycle to go through your different modes. Those are your 3 main modes. Double press, you go to turbo. From off, you can long press and it goes to red and goes to the mode last used, and this is a strobe. If I press again, it goes to lowest mode, and again then to the highest mode. Double pressing does nothing while the light is in red mode. And as mentioned before, if you put it in the case, it works as a lantern. You can see the LCD screen up on top so you know what's going on. Easy access to the button there. Kind of a neat dual-sided use. Retention. The light here does have a spring steel clip on the back that's screwed into the back of the light there at the top. This is in contrast to the X2, which, here's the head on that, and here's the head. The clips are opposites on the X3, sorry. The X2 is a little bit better for EDC carry, like in a pocket or something like that. I think where they were going with the X3 is to clip it onto a vest, kind of like that. And I've got a picture of that. Not really for a front pocket, EDC, something like that. For me, it's just too much sticking out. The case does have a lanyard attachment point there on the back, where you can attach the charging cord lanyard adapter here, that I'll call it, that we looked at earlier. You pull that out, you've got your USB-C charging cable. So this is really convenient and nice. You can't feel the wires inside. It's got a ruler on it if you want to measure something quick. One other point of retention, the rear is magnetic on the light itself. For size and weight, I measured the length of the light at 70.35 millimeters, width at 35.5 millimeters, and depth here at 19.77. Weight with the clip is just at 62.7 grams or 2.21 ounces. With the case here, but without the lanyard, the light comes in at 5.87 ounces or 166.4 grams. The size of the case is 185.4 millimeters by 47 by 39.7. The light here is IPX65 water rated, drop resistant to 1 meter. There's no water or drop rating given for the case. It's plastic. I'd try not to drop it. Here are a couple of photos next to other Wuben X series lights. I've got the X2 next to the X3, and the X3 next to the X1. You can see the X1 is considerably larger, of course. So let's talk about the LED and beam here. You can see on the left there's the red LED, and on the right is the white LED. The X3 is using a Samsung LH351D emitter, neutral white in about 5,000 Kelvin tint. On my Opal meter, I measured it at 4,895 Kelvin with a 94.5 CRI. So not only is it high CRI, but it is neutral white too. So that's great, in my opinion. The DUV was measured very neutral with no color tinges like you sometimes get with the LH351D, so a good bin. For me personally, this is a nice choice of emitter and tint. No specific LED was mentioned for the red LED here. As always, beam pattern is going to be hard to see on camera, so I'll roll in the still shots that I took of it, but it's a fuzzy, tight hotspot with a minimal amount of spill. I think the fuzziness is due to that TIR optic being so close to the LED and it being so short and wide, not the most common type of TIR you see. I didn't really notice it being a problem until you're showing the light onto a flat surface up close. Again, that's pretty nitpicky. It's pretty decent. A couple of notes on outputs. Things in general underperform Wuben's initial claims. This is a prototype light, so I'm not 100% sure if the documentation I've gotten is just maybe a little high. They're planning to make maybe a few changes, or what exactly is going on here. I have asked for clarification and really haven't gotten it. All that said, turbo lasted less than 30 seconds on my multiple tests, and if you follow the FL1 standard of taking a reading after 30 seconds, claim should be more like 175 lumens instead of the 700 claimed, or the 515 measured at initial power on. Rest of the modes were within reasonable margin of error for me, and red actually exceeded the claims a little bit in high. So here is the Wuben X3, and I wanted to show you the version that I have that is glow in the dark, and you can see it's pretty bright. I just charged it before going on camera here, and I just think it looks pretty cool. You can see the wireless charging pad there in the front pretty clearly, and the clip outline in the back. It's a cool look for the light. So here is the lowest level 1 lumen output. As usual, 1 lumen doesn't really show up on camera. Bumping up, here is the lowest level 2, 50 lumens. I measured this at about 66 lumens on my runtime tests. And if I have it out more in my usual yard area here, we can still see that it throws reasonably well. That TIR optic does a good job. And this is running Samsung LH351D emitters, about 4,900 Kelvin. So it's a nice neutral tint and high CRI. Here is the next level up, high, 150 lumens. Not a ton more light output for another 100 lumens, but this is pretty decent. It gets to the edge of my fence. Doesn't really reach to the neighbor's fence at all, is what we're normally used to seeing. And here is turbo, and I measured this at about 550 lumens. Lights up my yard great, but just barely reaches into the neighbor's yard here. And as I've said before, this is about 75 yards or so. Not the longest distance, but doesn't really go beyond that. The beam pattern here is pretty good. One thing to note here is that this is 550 lumens to start, but steps down rather quickly. And while I've been talking here, it's most likely stepped down to about 170 lumens here. So I can shut off and come back and you get the full power again. There is red modes. There's a low red, which is rated for somewhere around 1 lumen. This would be great for like reading a map or something like that up close. Then there is high red. This is quite bright. I measured about 90 lumens, and you can see the beam pattern here is pretty good. Again, it steps down reasonably well. And then there is a SOS mode in red, which is kind of unique. I want to do one more comparison. Here is the Wuben X3. This is about 550 lumens. And then here's the Wuben X2. Same emitters, but this is 3 emitters, and it can do 1750 on turbo. So a lot broader beam with the X2. Different style lens as well. Both good quality, nice LEDs to compare to. For my heat and run times, I took measurements with my Texas Ace lumen tube, and starting in turbo, the light stepped down very quickly, right at 30 seconds, and this is a little disappointing along with the output numbers being less than claimed, as I talked about earlier. And keep in mind, this is a pre-production model here. The step downs are not heat related, as heat barely changed during this time. The max heat I saw was 63C at the 18-minute mark, and that was attached to the aluminum head here. There just isn't a lot of space to dissipate heat on this light. The light was able to sustain between 100 and 180 lumens then for 90 minutes, and in high outputs were slightly lower and runtimes were slightly longer as expected. In medium, the light ran for 4 hours and 30 minutes at a very stable 75 lumens or so. And that's pretty impressive out of the 1000 milliamp hour battery that's inside the X3. So let's talk about recharging. The light itself can be recharged wirelessly. Luckily, it uses the QI charging standard QI. Not quite sure how you say that. I'm sure you guys will rip me a new one on that. This is just a standard 5-volt charging pad. I can put my light there, and we will see, if I turn the power bank on, we will see it comes alive and shows you the battery level, 90%, 80% charged. I have it upside down, so there you go. You can see it's 80% charged, shows on the LED itself there. You do get a little internal LED while it's charging. I think it's blue if I remember right by looking at it. Can't see it in my video lights here. So it'll sit here happy and charge up. It's not the slowest process in the world. I think I measured it around 2.5 hours or so, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Your other charging method is via the case, as we talked about. I think it'd be really neat if you could just put it on top here, but as you can see, that isn't what it's designed to do. You just simply put it inside, press the power button here, and it starts to charge really simply. You can see that LCD screen comes on and tells you your battery state. Flashlight itself has a 1000 milliamp hour battery, and it took about 2 hours 46 minutes for the light inside the case to charge from dead. And I measured this using the case with a full charge, plugging the light in, and then measuring the power the case drew as it was charging. So not the world's best testing method, but about all you can do on something like this. This is fairly slow charging speed for such a small battery on something like this. So, you know, you lose some power given the wireless, but it's still kind of neat. And it ends up being pretty convenient. The case here itself has a 2000 milliamp hour battery inside, and in my testing I found that I could charge the X3 from low voltage protection to about 1.7 times before the internal capacity of the case was empty. I then tested charging just the internal battery of the case from 0 to full, and that took 2.5 hours. And the case did seem to draw a small amount of power for what was quite a while, regardless of how many hours you left it to sit there. So that's something I've mentioned to Wuben to take a look at before the light goes to production. When I first read about the X3, I thought it was a little bit of a gimmick, but once I got it and had it in my hands, started using it, it grew on me pretty quickly. It's a useful feature set for what it is. I like the dual emitter red and white being offered here. It's a good use of side-by-side in my opinion, and it works pretty well. The rotating head here is something that I really liked. You can use it as that front-facing lamp on a vest or a coat or overalls or something like that. Admittedly, not something I do very often, but it's there, or you can use it straight, like is what I've been using it the most often. I found myself using this to go down in the basement at night and check on my 3D printers without turning on the lights. And I did that because it's that neutral white and high CRI. If you've got the choice, that's just what I prefer. And I found myself dropping this on a wireless charging pad, same thing I use for my phone, and charging it up if it was low. I think the feature set of the battery pack here is kind of fun too. The lantern feature here isn't going to be your best lantern in the house, but if it's all you got or throw in a bag, it's awfully nice to have a lantern when you have a power outage and need some light. So this is a nice little bonus feature. I didn't use the battery bank function of the case, but it's there. Top up your phone or something like that if you wanted to. So again, well thought out and thought ahead on this one. The glow-in-the-dark body here works pretty well and is an example of an internal LED comes on, which kind of helps it glow. The wireless charging feature works kind of well, but it's a little bit slow. I found it rather convenient, and I like that nothing here is proprietary. You don't need a special cable or you don't need a special wireless charger for this. And it's one of the only flashlights I can think of with wireless charging that follows a widely available standard, and I could even use power sharing on my phone for this. This isn't something I'm gonna EDC my front pants pockets because of that clip, but I do like the smaller size here, and the harder angles I think look good, maybe not be the most practical, but that's okay. So for me, this is gonna be a back of the pocket or in my bag type of light. As mentioned before, I've been using this one around the house a decent amount since I've had it for the last couple weeks, and it's kind of become my go-to, and that glowing body is just kind of a neat feature. I do wish the LED screen showed you your, like, an estimated runtime. Nikkor does that on a lot of their lights, and I'd like to have a battery percentage instead of a battery power indicator just because it's more precise. I'm a little disappointed that the output here isn't what's claimed. It's off by a decent margin in turbo. The rest are fairly similar. Not sure why this is, and Wuben hasn't been super forthcoming on it, and it's something I hope they address for the production models. Overall, this is a fun light I can recommend, especially if you have some of the other X series and want to add to your collection. Just be aware turbo output may be underwhelming. I'll have links below in the description on where you can find this on Kickstarter, and if you're watching it after the Kickstarter is over, there'll be links to where you can pick it up on the Wuben website direct. As always, guys, thanks for watching these videos. I appreciate you sticking with me on this long review, and if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.